Trees and shrubs have a lot of different issues dependent on the specific year. So this year, what I'm seeing is we had 90-degree temperatures early on in the spring, and Mother Nature got a little bit confused. After that, we had a cold snap, and I don't know about you, but I put my garden in a little bit too soon, and some of the plants that I have got frostbite from that. And so no different than that, many times trees will have issues in the spring if we have an environment that has an excess amount of water and a cool environment. And there's also times that in the spring we have droughty issues or heat that comes on and then a cold snap that happens afterwards. So this year there's nothing specific that really jumps out to me with our environmental issues that we've had, but emerald ash borer is still on the move. It's a pesky little insect that's a flatheaded borer that continuing to be a problem for the trees in Minnesota. We've got 3 main flat-headed borers that tend to be an issue. Bronze birch borer, which affects the white birch trees, paper birch trees typically. Two-Lined Chestnut Borer, which generally is going to attack our oak trees, which we have around us here. And then emerald ash borer, which of course is killing all of our ash trees. So many different types of insects and diseases affect our trees at all points in time. This is where I like to refer my clients back to the disease triangle. The disease triangle is really the pathogen, the host, and the environment. Meaning you've got your disease or insect that's a problem, you have the host, which is going to be the tree, and then you have your environment. So as we talk about foliar fungal diseases, you need moisture for that. Cool, moist areas is where foliar fungal diseases generally thrive. And so knowing that, if there's a spring where we were very dry in the spring, we likely won't have as many foliar fungal problems later on into the season. It's really best to get with a certified arborist, have them identify what exact problems you're having with your specific species of trees, and then be able to get a diagnosis and a prescription based off of those specific instances and problems that are happening in your area.
What does your company do for disease and insect prevention?
Well, it depends on the tree because there's many different types of insects, and so many times we have to first identify the type of insect that we want to treat. We don't like to just put chemicals into trees or into the ground if we don't have to. So first of all, it's really identifying and finding the correct solution or prescription to go with whatever that said problem is. Because one of the forms of treatment that we do is called a macro injection. It's where we have 50 some odd gallons of water based off the size of the tree that gets pressurized and pumped into the tree. And that's through the vascular system of the tree. So think about like an IV, right? You're not just getting a shot into the leg, you're getting an IV that's pumping the medicine into you. So that's just one form of treatment that we do. There's also micro injections. Micro is small, so small amounts of liquid, small amounts of the product that we need to send up into the tree. We typically use that for our insecticides. So for treating for emerald ash borer, bronze birch borer, two-lined chestnut borer, many of those types of insects will use this micro injection. Furthermore, many times it's maybe a drought issue or something else, and in that case we'll do what's called the soil drench with a specific type of product where we'll actually dump it into the ground, and it'll be the tree that does most of the work to bring that product up into the tree. So depending on the severity of the disease or insect, depending on what the disease or insect is going to change what our prescription is and the timing of when we need to do it to be able to best manage said disease or insect.
How long do these treatments last? Is this something that is to be done every year?
Complex answer to that question would be there's not necessarily a cure for any of the things that we do. There's preventative and there's reactive. And so as much as I love to prevent the diseases and insects that come along, more often than not we're called after the fact when people notice that there's something that's going wrong with their trees. We try to approach it again by asking our clients what their specific goals are and then try to give them prescriptions based off of what their goals are.
Do you have a recommendation for how homeowners can keep their trees and shrubs healthy?
Free advice. Everybody likes free things, right? So I think absolutely there's cultural practices that we can do that are free. If you have a evergreen tree at your home and it's got maybe interior needles that are dying back in the lower half is looking almost purplish on the insides, that could be a sign of rhizosphere needle cast. And if you have rhizosphere needle cast, if we go back to that disease triangle, it's rhizosphere needle cast, a host, evergreen tree, and an environment. So can we reduce the environment that's causing the infections to happen by not watering the foliage of our evergreen tree? Because by putting water on the foliage, we're keeping it wet. And because it's shaded on the interior portions, now it's wet, and it also is cool because it's shaded. So we've just created a perfect environment for that said disease. So what can a homeowner do? Well, a homeowner could prune the lower branches up, let a little bit of that air flow through, thin out some of that interior dead or crossing branches. Again, let that air flow through, because now we're reducing that environment, which is the breeding ground for the problems that we were probably called for in the first place. Watering. Plants need water. So when it's droughty, we need to make sure that we put supplemental water onto them. This yard, of course, is irrigated, but where does it look like the majority of this water goes? It goes to the turf. Turf and trees are like arch enemies. They're like oil and water. They're like Lex Luthor and Superman. They don't like each other, but we try to squeeze them together in an urban setting like this all the time, and in doing so, a lot of times it stresses the trees out.
If somebody wants to consider being an arborist, what would be your recommendation?
My recommendation, if you want to be an arborist, would be to do research. I think just like anything in life, do your research, ask people, ask other arborists, what do you like about it? It's not for everybody. It can be a very challenging job, but I think the thing that is really neat about the field of arboriculture that we are in is there's so many different varieties that you can go into. You can go into the physical side of things and be that climbing arborist. You can go into the diagnostician side of things and become a board certified master arborist and say, I want to know everything about the diseases and insects out there and how to save trees. You can be a utility arborist and take care of entire neighborhoods of trees that, suggestions for what should be planted next. Probably not all ash trees, because if it is all ash trees, then we run into budgetary problems when cities need to take care of all of those trees dying from invasive species. So there's so many different veins that an individual could go down when you think about being an arborist, that it's not just cutting trees.